You know this feeling. That slow collapse inside you when someone says your name, not with tenderness, but with that familiar pull, the quiet expectation that you will lift what they refuse to carry. You hear it in the pause before their request. You feel it in the way your body tightens, even when your voice stays warm. And you wonder, not for the first time, how long a person can keep giving without disappearing a little each time. It often begins in the small hours, when the house is dim and the world feels thin. You're standing in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a cup you're too tired to drink from, listening to another late-night call. They spill their chaos into your quiet, and you hold it because you've always held it. You say the right words, you soften your tone, but inside, something loosens, a faint thread slipping from its knot. A life can look full from the outside. People admire your strength, your steadiness, your endless ability to show up, but they never see the aftermath, the moment when you sit at the edge of your bed after the phone call ends, staring into the dark, feeling as if some inner light has dimmed just a little more, not gone, just shaded, as though someone reached inside you and lowered the wick. And the strange thing is, none of this is dramatic. There's no betrayal, no storm, no raised voices. It's quieter than that, almost gentle. A steady drip of being needed for what you can give rather than who you are. They don't ask how you're holding up. They don't notice the tremor in your breath. They only notice when your usefulness flickers, when your energy falters, when you can no longer pour from the well they assume will never run dry. There's a moment, maybe it's happened to you, when you catch your reflection in a window at dusk, and you don't quite recognize the eyes looking back. They seem older, not in years, but in weight, as if they've watched too many doors swing open only when someone wanted something, as if they've learned, slowly and without meaning to, that love without reciprocity becomes a kind of erasure. And still, you keep trying. You keep giving. You keep answering the call, even as the hour grows late and the light inside you grows thin, because it's what you've always done. But tonight, as the room settles around you and the last of your strength exhales from your chest, you feel something deeper than tired. You feel the cost, and for the first time, you do not rush to ignore it. You simply sit with the truth that has been waiting in the dark. You cannot keep shining for those who never notice when your light fades. There's a reason you've carried so much for so long, though you rarely name it. It lives in the quiet places of you, the places where you learned, early and without instruction, that love was something you earned by being useful, that being needed was safer than being truly seen. And so you became the one who steps in, the one who smooths the rough edges, the one who absorbs what others refuse to face, not because you wanted to be the hero, but because something in you whispered that disappearing a little was a small price to pay for belonging. We don't talk about these hidden contracts, do we? The unspoken agreements written in childhood rooms and long ago silences. You give, they stay. You help, they approve. You disappear, they call you good. It feels natural at first, almost noble, until one day you realize you've been trading pieces of yourself for a kind of affection that never arrives in full. Think of the moments that shape this pattern. A parent too tired to notice you unless you were helpful. A friend who only drew close when their world was falling apart. A partner who praised your patience while offering none of their own. You learned to feel valuable only when you were fixing something. And so even now, when someone says, "I'm fine," you hear the tremor beneath their voice. You know they're not fine. You know you could steady them. You've done it 100 times. And before you can stop yourself, you're already reaching for their burden, already rehearsing what you'll say to soothe them. Not because they asked, but because you long ago decided that tending to others proves your worth. There's a scene that returns often, maybe in dreams, maybe in memory. You at the end of a hallway, holding the phone to your ear, waiting. You've called someone, not to give, but to be held for a moment, and no one picks up. The ring echoes, soft but hollow, and you hang up before voicemail answers. You tell yourself it was nothing. You tell yourself you didn't really need them. But something in you folds, quietly, almost imperceptibly. A reminder that you've built a life where you show up for everyone, yet feel unsure who would show up for you. We do this because we fear what might remain if we stop. If you're not the dependable one, who are you? If you're not the one who fills the silence, will anyone stay through it? Somewhere along the way, goodness became synonymous with self-erasure, as though shrinking yourself was a form of grace, as though carrying the weight proved your heart was worthy. And yet, beneath all of this, a truth keeps whispering, soft but steady. You were never meant to disappear in order to be loved. There comes a moment, usually a quiet one, when something shifts inside you. Not a dramatic collapse, not an argument, not even a confession. Just a stillness, a pause in the middle of a familiar gesture. Your hand reaches to help, as it always has, and suddenly you feel the weight of that movement. Not the weight of what you're lifting, but the weight of how long you've been lifting it. It's strange how kindness can turn on you when it has nowhere to rest. How it begins as a soft offering, a way of easing another's burden, and slowly becomes the habit of abandoning your own. You don't notice at first. Kindness feels noble. It feels right. It feels like the thing a good person does. But goodness without boundaries is just another way of disappearing. It's like walking into a room and opening every window to let in fresh air, only to find the wind has carried out pieces of you instead. You meant to offer relief. You ended up emptied. There's no anger in this realization, just a widening of sight, a clarity that feels almost tender in its honesty. You begin to see that what you called generosity was often a quiet fear, the fear of being unnecessary, the fear of being left behind if you stopped giving, the fear that your presence alone was never enough. And in this new light, scenes you lived through begin to look different. The hours spent fixing what others refused to tend. The doors you kept open for people who only entered when they needed shelter. The moments you felt invisible in your own home because you had trained everyone, including yourself, to see you only when you were of use. A soft ache rises in your chest, sadness for the years spent pouring from a well you never allowed to refill. But alongside that sadness, something else appears, a relief, a loosening, as if someone gently placed a hand on your shoulder and said, "Look," and you did. You saw the truth without turning away from it. You finally understand the paradox. A virtue becomes a wound the moment it asks you to vanish. And in that understanding, the room grows brighter. A kindness that costs your wholeness is no kindness at all. There's a point you reach, quietly, almost without ceremony, where you stop rushing toward every call of your name, not out of bitterness, not out of punishment, but out of a deeper understanding of what your presence is worth. It happens softly, the way evening settles over a room. The same world, the same furniture, the same familiar faces, yet something in you has changed its position. You begin to recognize the difference between openness and exposure. A door can be welcoming without being wide. A light can glow without burning itself out. And your life, long treated as a public hallway for other people's needs, starts to feel like a home again, with thresholds that must be crossed with care. This refusal you're learning is not loud. There is no scene, no declaration, no grand moment of enough. It sounds more like a phone that rings and rings while you sit in the next room, listening to the wind move the curtains. You hear the pull, the old instinct rising in you. Answer, fix, soothe, and you let it pass like a wave that no longer reaches the shore. Silence becomes your boundary, not cold, not sharp, just a gentle closing of a door that was never meant to stay open all night. You start choosing where to place your attention, and something remarkable happens. The world does not fall apart. People adjust. Those who leaned on you because it was easy look elsewhere. Those who valued you only for what you could provide fade into the distance. And the ones who understand, truly understand, learn to knock instead of barging in. There's a dignity in this quiet stepping back, a sense of standing inside your own life rather than being dragged through someone else's. You feel the space around you again, the air, the stillness, the room waiting for your return. For the first time in a long while, your energy is not being siphoned off in small, unnoticed cuts. It stays with you. It warms you. It feeds something that had begun to starve. Refusal, you realize, can be a kind of love, the kind that protects what is tender, the kind that does not allow you to be used against yourself. You don't announce it. You don't explain it. You simply step back from the noise until the noise no longer reaches you. And in that gentle retreat, something beautiful occurs. The house quiets. There is a kind of love that doesn't lean forward, doesn't rush in, doesn't pour itself out until it runs thin. It is quieter than the love you were taught to give. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't insist. It simply stands at the threshold of your life with a steady light, asking nothing, burning no one. Think of your inner world as a house at dusk, not grand, not fragile, just a simple lived-in place where each room holds something of you. The soft chair where you rest, the windows that catch the first hint of morning, the hallway where your thoughts move unhurried. This house is your being. For years, you've let others walk through its rooms without pause. They tracked in their weather, their noise, their urgency. You allowed it because you believed that love meant never closing the door. But now you stand on your own threshold and feel the quiet holiness of space. Not loneliness, space. The space that lets you breathe. The space that lets light settle where it once scattered. The space that lets your heart return to its natural rhythm. Silence becomes the lantern you hold, not to guide others in, but to keep your home warm and visible to yourself. It casts a soft glow across the floorboards you once forgot to notice. It touches the corners you abandoned while tending to everyone else's storms. In this glow, you see that distance is not a punishment, but a preservation, the gentle shaping of where you end and where someone else begins. There is compassion in stepping back, a compassion that says, I will not let my presence enable your absence from your own life. A compassion that trusts others to face their own darkness, to gather their own strength, to discover the walls they lean on are not meant to be yours. You are not withdrawing love. You are allowing it to breathe in its true form, spacious, calm, undemanding. Here, in the quiet, gratitude arrives. Gratitude for the air in your chest. Gratitude for the light you keep for yourself. Gratitude for the simple truth that you can love others without carrying them. And as you stand at your doorway, lantern in hand, the whole house feels peaceful again. Not from isolation, but from balance. Sometimes the deepest love is the space that lets you return to yourself. There comes a day when the weight you've been carrying simply slips from your hands. Not because you forced it to fall, and not because someone finally understood your exhaustion, but because something inside you has grown too clear, too steady, too honest to keep holding what was never yours to lift. You wake, and the world feels different. Not lighter, just more truthful. The noise that once reached straight into your chest now moves around you instead of through you. The old tug, the instinct to rush, to soothe, to fix, still stirs for a moment, then fades like a wave losing strength before it touches the shore. This is release, quiet, unannounced, a simple returning of your energy to your own life. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for things that were never meant to feed on you. It means you let others carry the weight of their own becoming. You stop rehearsing the speeches they'll never hear. You stop shaping yourself into the person they prefer instead of the person you actually are. And in that letting go, something surprising happens. You don't fall apart. You don't harden. You don't vanish. You expand. Space appears inside you where guilt once lived. Breath moves into rooms where self-doubt used to sit. You feel yourself settling, the way a house settles after a long storm. The beams sigh, the air calms, the floor stops trembling under old demands. You understand finally that peace needs no explanation. Every attempt to justify your boundary was a way of asking for permission you no longer need. Every argument meant to prove your worth was a door you kept swinging open long after the visitor had gone. Now, you choose the quiet path, not the cold one, the honest one. You leave conversations before they turn into rescues. You let calls go unanswered when your spirit is thin. You step back from fires you did not start, trusting others to learn from their own heat. There is a soft triumph in this. Not pride, steadiness. Not distance, alignment. You are no longer bracing yourself for the next request, the next crisis, the next person who calls your name because they forgot you have a life of your own. You stand in the center of your days with both feet on the ground, and for the first time, you feel the quiet promise of a life that belongs to you. You let go, and what remained was yours.